That's in some areas.
Basically, yeah, we're working for Channel 4 this year. We're doing a massive campaign to combat youth unemployment, which is undoubtedly the biggest problem to young people at the minute. So yeah, I guess, yeah, in the past year, youth unemployment in some places has risen by 246%. And it rose again the last month. The youth contract, in my opinion, only goes so far. So my question to the panel is, how do you sort of think you could help those who are long-term unemployed?
Well, Chelsea, it's not just the biggest issue for young people. I think if you step back and look at the fact we've got over 1 million young people who are in education and employment, that is a massive scar on the country, which, and we're in a better place than Spain, and the most terrifying statistic that 50% of the young people who could work or not in work. That is an absolutely terrifying statistic. We're in a better place than that, but this is a very stubborn, huge number which we should be ashamed about. And there's not an easy answer to it, as you well know. The easy answer is we need more jobs, and we need to make sure that young people have got the skills to fill those jobs. And we're making some progress in terms of creation of jobs in the private sector. You're a bit dismissive about the youth contract, and maybe a bit early to form a judgment on that. It is £1 billion public subsidy for employers taking on young people. It's not an insignificant initiative. You put that alongside apprenticeships and everything else, record number of apprentices, everything else that we're busting a gut to do to try and create more opportunities for young people and help them to develop the skills that they need. And others will comment on that. I'm just going to make one very small point, which is not central, but I think is important, gets a bit overlooked, and it comes back to the character and confidence thing. We introduced National Citizen Service to about 50 employers because we wanted them to understand what it was and what it meant to see it on CV. And it was quite interesting what their reaction was to it. I remember the guy from Boots, the head of the top guy at Boots, saying, "This is really interesting for us because actually what we're looking for in young people now is not just the grades, of course they matter, but we're looking for something different. We're looking for," he used the word character. I think that, as we talked about before, the kind of programs we're talking about that help young people develop their skills and their confidence and their self-esteem, and all that are hugely important. They're part of the mix, as well as the big public subsidies to employers to take on young people. The campaigns like the Evening Standard are running in London to push and nudge companies to offer more apprenticeships. There's a broad front we've got to work on, but we've got to do a lot better than we are at the moment, and I congratulate you on your campaign.
Could I just say something to that? You're talking about the National Citizen Service. I was actually last year on the pilot scheme of the ICS, which is the International Citizen Service.
Yeah, how was that?
It was amazing, obviously. I went to India at the time of my life and, I learnt so much. But I come back from that and I was still unemployed for months on end until Battlefront gave me an opportunity to stand up and speak about my sort of problems. Yeah. So for you to sort of say that the companies are looking for these sort of skills, why didn't they choose me? Why was I unemployed for so long?
Yeah, well, that's our point. Others must come in, but I said, you need the jobs. You need the jobs, and then you need to make sure that young people are tooled to fill those jobs. And we've got a big problem in terms of creating jobs because the business confidence at the moment isn't out there. But it's growing, and I think it will grow even more. So you need both. But doing things like International Citizen Service, that being on your CV, should count.
Thank you. I'm going to ask Susan to comment on that. I think there's a saying that prevention is better than cause, and I'm kind of at a place where we need to be a bit more proactive. So we need to start at schools, to be honest. Fair enough, we have 2 weeks of work experience, and yeah, that's fun. But what happens after 2 weeks of work experience? What happens to actual employers coming into school telling you about job opportunities? What happens to people who are in business coming into schools and telling you, to youth centres, to your own different places that you may be, actually telling you about careers events? Now, the fact, I've also been looking for a job. I'm a university student, about to finish university next year. And one thing that I suppose annoys me sometimes is there's lack of feedback. So you'll go for an interview and they don't give you any feedback on what you can improve, what you could do better. And for me, I feel that is really crucial for me and also for BYC, because we are the voice of young people. That's really, really crucial, because if you don't know where you're going wrong, how are you supposed to improve on that? And I feel that that this is really important, and we feel that this will make a difference, particularly in youth unemployment on that level.
There's a lot of nodding around the room at that point. Tim, I'm going to come to you.
Okay, Nick covered the sort of non-academic stuff, and it's absolutely right. But it also starts in schools, and it starts early in schools. And we have been kidding ourselves that we've still got too many young people going through the school system and they're not having the level of basic literacy and numeracy skills and other skills that employers want. And that's what employers keep saying to us, is that we can't employ too many of these young people because they haven't got the basic things we need. And they need to be flexible as well. That's why there is no substitute for making sure that every young person who leaves school at 16 or participation age going to 17 or 18 absolutely is up to speed with literacy and numeracy skills that they can take from one job to another. And that's why we're overhauling the GCSE system, to make sure that we have got young people coming out of schools with the skills that employers want. And Rosina's right as well, and I mentioned it earlier, we need more employers going into schools to tell young people what jobs are actually all about. Now the youth contract is just one part of it, and there's no magic bullet in all of this, but what the youth contract is doing is it's horses for courses. It's expanding enormously the work experience places, because work experience was a preserve of private schools to a larger extent in the past. We're making sure that everybody should get an opportunity to have some of these work experiences that they can make the most of, put on their CV and learn what the right sort of job's going to be for them. There's been a massive expansion in apprenticeships, 177,000 additional apprenticeships, absolutely targeted. We need more to at younger people. So we're going to make sure that younger people are getting these apprenticeships. They are quality apprenticeships. They last for at least a year as well. They're not just plastic apprenticeships. So it's numbers and it's quality there as well. But we've got to remember it does come down to jobs. And we're no longer just competing against the school down the road or at the other end of the country. We are competing in a global market. And this year, China will produce something like 1.2 million graduates with engineering degrees alone, who can go into companies producing stuff which we end up buying. That's what we've got to compete with. So we've got to make sure that we're educating the young people who've got skills to go into the jobs, that there's a market there for.
Yeah, I was going to bring in Jermaine quickly on this one, and then we'll go to the final question.
I think I'd like to see more incentives being offered to the actual businesses in question. I think in terms of a wider industry, I think we need to make it more diverse for students, recent graduates that actually want to go into various non-engineering jobs. I think that in order to actually gain the necessary skills in order to go into these jobs, I think that, like you say, it needs to start from the school level. I think we need to, I think more work experience placements, as you say, 2 weeks isn't enough. I do think that there just need to be more resources put in place for businesses to actually take on these people that want to do apprenticeships, things like that. So.